Living in Fiji, I get to experience, this wonderful paradise. So it's a really beautiful thing to be able to share that with the rest of the world and invite the world to come and visit.
The people in Fiji are energetic, are happy all the time, and are just excited. And sometimes, you go to resorts, you go to hotels, and that excitement is seen at the reception.
It is a place where I can guarantee, hand on heart, that if you come and stay in Fiji, when you leave, you will feel like you are friends with Fijian people.
If someone who's listening to us is planning a trip to Fiji, what is a great travel plan that they should have?
So if you want to go whitewater rafting, if you want to go on an e-bike up into the mountains, if you want to do snorkeling or you want to go to a beach club, we have this amazing floating bar which is out over a reef.
Okay.
It's a must. You have to do it.
What are some of the activities that really stand out?
There's, little islands that are shaped like hearts, and you see it all. You see the blues and the colors. And then the pilot says, do you want to go and land on one? So if you're an Indian and you've got a proposal or something like this, a big celebration, some sort of, birthday or milestone moment, you have to come and do it in Fiji.
Today, we are talking about Fiji, a place that has water as clear as the water that you're currently drinking, a place where you have so many adventure activities that you won't have enough days to cover them all, and a place where you can either have a proposal, celebrate your 30th or 40th or 50th milestone birthday, or a place that you can go to with your loved ones, whether it's a honeymoon, whether it's a family holiday or anything. And finally, a place that if you're doing a trip to Australia and New Zealand, which can sometimes get a lot more hectic than you can imagine, you want to rest for 2 or 3 days, Fiji is the place to go to. So, welcome to another episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. And today I have with me the CEO of Tourism Fiji, Brent Hill. Let's get into the episode and find out what Fiji has to offer for all of us. Brent, thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast episode with us, and welcome to India. Let's start by getting to know you a little. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. It's wonderful to be here. This is my second trip. But first time spending some time in Mumbai. And, it's fantastic. I've really appreciated the welcome. So I'm the CEO of Tourism Fiji, but you can tell from the accent I'm Australian. So I've been living in Fiji now for 4 years.
Okay.
And, it's a wonderful privilege to, be working for Tourism Fiji, promoting Fiji. And of course, living in Fiji, I get to experience, this wonderful paradise. So it's a really beautiful thing to be able to share that with the rest of the world and invite the world to come and visit Fiji. So, certainly excited to be here for OTM this year as well.
Awesome. Welcome to India. And I'm glad that this is your second trip. I'm sure this is the second trip of many to India.
Yes,
and we are
so.
really hoping that. But congratulations, because I read somewhere that the tourist numbers to Fiji have hit 1 million, or as we would say in India, 10 lakh travelers have come to Fiji, and they have come from all parts of the world. So I would not want to waste any time, but just get straight into it. You've spent 4 years in Fiji. Mm. What brings 1 million travelers to Fiji every year? What are some of the reasons you think?
Yeah, it's really exciting for us that we have welcomed 1 million. Pre-COVID, we probably had 10 years where growth was very flat. Then we've come out of COVID really strong, and certainly the year-on-year growth just continues to grow. So we've started to have better air connectivity, which is really important. So to be able to get to Fiji, you can travel on Fiji Airways, very modern fleet, which is wonderful. Then in Fiji itself, we've got amazing accommodation. It's a very beautiful natural place. The greens are beautiful, the blues are beautiful. It's a very natural part of the world. And the temperature is also this sort of wonderful 28 to 30 degrees almost every day.
Yeah.
And the water is the same temperature as the air.
That's awesome.
Right. So
Yeah.
for me, as an Australian going there, I kept looking at the weather forecast because this is what you do in Australia. And in Fiji, you just don't have to bother because
It's the same.
It's the same. It's perfect.
Yeah. And I guess compared to Adelaide, the water would be way warmer and you'd be in the water all the time, right?
Yes, the water, like so 27 degrees, about normal. So, you just wear your swimmers. This is one of the things. Of course, if you come to Fiji, you have to get into the water because it's so clear, and the reef and coral life is something like you've only seen in movies. It's beautiful.
That's great. So, on this podcast, I often like to have guests like you and bust a few myths, right? Because what the Indian travelers probably know of Fiji is very different to what you have experienced in Fiji over the last 4 years. So often, whenever Fiji as a destination is suggested to an Indian traveler, an instant reaction is, to me, Fiji seems the same as Maldives.
Right.
Clear water, which I'll get in Maldives. So why should I really go to Fiji?
Yeah.
Would you like to tell the Indian market how it is different, or what your view would be or a reply to this statement?
Yeah, of course. And I've been to the Maldives. I think the Maldives is an incredible location, but with respect, Fiji is very different. I think the key thing in Fiji is that we have 3 main big islands. And those islands have high mountains, big canyons. You have rivers, waterfalls, all this kind of thing. So, for example, if you start on Viti level, which is where the main international airport is, it's quite possible that in the morning you might do a trekking or whitewater rafting, or go on a jet boat safari up the river into the internal hinterland. And then in the afternoon, you'll go and do something on the water.
Yeah.
And in the Maldives, it was what we would call like a rinse and repeat experience. You do the same thing every day.
Every day.
Snorkel, eat well, go for a walk.
And then go back snorkel again.
Yeah, that's
right?
it.
Yeah.
So in Fiji, there is that added element. And I think the other thing that I have to mention here is the Fijian people. So when you come to Fiji, from literally in the airport, we have people playing instruments to welcome you to Fiji.
Yeah.
And straight away you get the vibe of what Fiji is all about. So there's these beautiful smiles, lots of people saying bulla.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you a story on this. I had a friend who came to Fiji, and they came in, and of course, Fijians will yell bulla to you, which is the word for hello.
Yeah.
Even if you're driving past them, whatever, like they're playing rugby, they'll stop, they'll yell out bulla. So she was seeing all of this, staying at our house. She's not saying anything. And on the second day, she says, how are you paying all these people this money so that they're saying, bulla? And it's like, no, this is just how they are. So it is a place where I can guarantee, hand on heart, that if you come and stay in Fiji, when you leave, you will feel like you are friends with the Fijian people.
Yeah, I totally agree, because my father did a trip to Fiji, I think in 2018, and he had gone with his friends from the travel industry. And one of the things they came back saying was that the people in Fiji are energetic, are happy all the time, and are just excited. And sometimes, you go to resorts, you go to hotels, and that excitement is seen at the reception.
Sure.
But one thing they had to say about their entire stay was that everywhere they went, there was consistent excitement and happiness that they experienced. But where do they get all of this energy from?
It's very special, it's actually been, there's been a lot of studies around it. Why are the Fijian people just naturally happy and hospitable? I think where it comes from is a real community feel. So in Fijian, they use a word where they say nimataka, it basically means if you're walking past and there's an open door and somebody's in there with food, come and eat with me. Oh. So I've experienced this. It's incredibly hospitable. It's a sharing culture. It's a very community culture. So you're looking after each other. So the expression that when a little child is born, they say it takes a village to bring up a child.
Yeah.
I mean, this is true in Fiji. So that collective sense of looking after people translates to guests. So when guests come to Fiji, you're welcome, you're part of the family, come eat with me, come share with me. So one of the greatest things in Fiji is to go to a village, to actually see the culture. You'll be invited in. It's a beautiful thing to do. And there's very few cultures in the world that are that open and that expressive.
And for you, when you first visited Fiji, was that when you got this role, or had you visited Fiji before as well?
Yeah, I'd been before, so I had a good handle on it. But certainly, going over there, that's the best part for me. Is just the Fijian people are just wonderful, and then to be able to see the level of accommodation and the options now that we have, because of course growth brings investment.
Correct.
So now there's new hotels, new experiences. Fiji Airways just bought 2 new A350 planes.
Yeah.
So it's a very world class destination. Mm-hmm. And of course for Indians, the other thing is it's very easy to get there.
Yeah.
In the sense of you don't have to apply for a visa.
That's the best thing.
Yeah, you can just come, and Indians are very welcome. So, the Indian culture is already there in Fiji, which is a surprise for a lot of Indians. They don't realize that 40% of people who live in Fiji have Indian heritage.
Yeah, so you'll see a lot of Indianness in the culture as well, in the food as well. And I think I'd like to pick up a few tangents and go on a few tangents from what you said. Like, you mentioned the new aircrafts that Fiji Airways has. And I would like to tell all our listeners that it's not just new. They are probably the newest aircrafts in the industry. They are the A350s. I know the business class on that. I'm an airline geek. So the business class on that is mind-blowing. They say that the service is probably the best. But that visa that you mentioned gives all Indian travelers the opportunity to decide today and probably go to Fiji tomorrow. And that's one of the best things that exist. Right. But speaking of the Indian connection and such a large population being of Indian descent and generations have grown there, would you say for the Indian traveler where the food is very important, many vegetarian and non-vegetarian options would be available and it would not be a problem at all?
Absolutely, and I think it's a real plus. For me going to Fiji, I was really surprised by just how much of that culture is there, which is wonderful. Like if you happen to be around Diwali time, it's a wonderful celebration. Even Holi is celebrated now more. I think personally some of the best food in Fiji is the Indian food because, those recipes have passed down generation. Yeah. And I think, as everybody, as a traveler, like I know as an Australian, if I'm traveling to a place like, China or India, whatever, sometimes on maybe the 3rd or 4th day after you've had, Indian food every day and really trying, you just go, okay, I'm just going to go and get a burger or something, just taste of home. So everybody wants that connection, and there are some amazing restaurants in Fiji that are serving great Indian dishes, and I think as well there's things like temples there and so on as well. So if people want to just go and sightsee or worship or so on, that's all there. So it's a very welcoming place and probably a little bit surprising for an Indian guest to see this culture very much alive and well. And probably to hear, Hindi spoken, widely across the country.
Just easy to get around, right?
Easy. So it's one of the easiest countries in the world, I'd say, for Indians for sure.
Awesome. So, I often like to bucket travelers from India going to Fiji into 2 categories. Mm-hmm. One is a large chunk who have gone to Australia or New Zealand who decided to do Club Fiji with a trip that they are doing.
Yes.
And the second is travelers who go to Fiji via Singapore or Hong Kong and arrive in Fiji. Now, if someone who's listening to us is planning a trip to Fiji, and I'm sure that over the last 4 years you have extensively traveled around Fiji, what is a great travel plan that they should have?
Yeah.
How many nights should they spend on the main island? Should they go to a subset of another island? Should they stay at a resort? What should they do? So from your own personal experience, because if we are to go on the internet, we'll find a lot of plans, a lot of itineraries,
course.
right? But what do you think? What's a good travel plan for Fiji like?
Yeah, I think the best thing, absolutely, and I've had a lot of experience with this now because, as you can imagine, every one of my friends, people that know me on Instagram or whatever, they ask me, every day, Brent, where should I go? What should I do? So I've traveled very widely around Fiji.
Yeah.
So I feel qualified to answer this question.
And that is why I'm asking.
So, what I would say is a week is fantastic. And do a mainland, as we call it, a mainland resort, and then go to the island. Mm-hmm. So a mainland resort means that you fly into Nandi, you'll get through immigration, really quickly, and then you can be in your resort in 20 minutes. It's a very short drive.
That's pretty cool.
And this is not 20 minutes in Mumbai traffic.
Yeah,
it's 20 minutes just because, that's how long it takes to get there. And then, stay in your resort, and then there's lots of activities around that you can do. So if you want to go whitewater rafting, if you want to go on a, e-bike up into the mountains, if you want to do snorkeling or you want to go to a beach club, we have this amazing floating bar, which is out over a reef.
Okay.
It's a must. You have to do it. So all of these activities you can do from the resort. Mm-hmm. And then after, say, 4 days, get a short boat ride out to an island resort, and then stay there for the last 3. Mm-hmm. And this is where you want to explore things like wellness, making sure you get the massage, making sure you eat beautiful food, and this is where you see all these amazing corals. So you can swim with manta rays, or see all the Finding Nemo fish.
Oh wow!
This kind of thing. So then you get the full experience of Fiji, I think.
And would you say Fiji is also a good destination for honeymooners? So would you say that the same travel plan applies to honeymooners, or would you add a few other things as well?
Yeah, I think so, because, I know now you've got a child, right? So the big appeal for Fiji for 20, 30 years is as a family destination.
Yeah.
Because Fijians look after children like nowhere else in the world. It's unbelievable. Like, I have a 1-year-old son, and his feet have never touched the ground. He's just always, carried. So with the honeymooners, that's where you go to the luxury island, because you don't want to be anywhere near the families, right? Mm-hmm. So the family's in the resort. Yeah. The honeymooners, that's where you want to go to these private islands. And if I can say so, I think, one of the things when you're on a honeymoon is you want ultimate privacy. Yeah. Right? And in Fiji, you're just not going to get bothered by other people. So a lot of the island resorts, typical size is probably, between 20 to maybe 30 or 40 rooms. That's it. Mm. And a lot of space between them. Yeah. And Fiji is very lush. So they're always, dividing the rooms with, rainforest and so on. So maximum privacy, beautiful big room. And also one thing I should mention as well is that the Indian rupee goes a long way in Fiji, because we have the Fiji dollar. Yeah. Right? So the Fiji dollar, as an example, is about 40 cents to US dollar. Mm-hmm. So the Indian rupee goes a long way. Yeah. When you're on a honeymoon, you want to flex a little bit. You want to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to get the nice experience. I'm going to do the jet ski safari or the skydiving or whatever. And you can do it and not blow your budget.
Yeah, that's what my next question was going to be. Like, would you say that, I don't often call any destination a cheap destination, but is Fiji a value for money destination? And, if someone's doing a side trip from Australia and New Zealand, sometimes the adventure experiences can be expensive in Australia or New Zealand. So as compared to that, would you say they are more value for your buck in Fiji?
I think, for sure. For an Indian traveller, absolutely. Because, again, even comparing to Australian dollar, so you'll do something in Australia, it'd be $100 Australian. That, like, our dollar is 67 cents compared to this. So, like I said, all of a sudden the thing like the jet ski tour or, you know, the whitewater rafting or quad bike or some experience like this becomes possible. So I think when people come to Fiji, what I've experienced, I've seen the Indian travelers come, they then tick off a lot of things that are on their bucket list.
Yeah.
So they say, I've always wanted to do skydiving, but it's too expensive because it's like 500 US or something somewhere else.
Yes.
Too expensive. In Australia, in Fiji, 500 Fijian dollars is much more affordable.
Yeah.
So then people go, I'm going to do it. So they do the bucket list in Fiji. So it's, yeah, I think from my perspective, it's a good value for money destination for sure.
I guess what I've got from our discussion over the last 20 minutes has been that you can do a lot of things in Fiji in the water, on the ground, and in the air as well. And that's pretty cool. Brent, now let's come to your personal stories.
Sure.
You have traveled around Fiji a lot now. So let's start with food and drink because that's one area that I love. What are your top picks when it comes to the food, and what are your top picks when it comes to the drink in Fiji for anyone listening?
So I think, you know, one of the great things about Fiji is that it's a country where tourism is 40% of the GDP. So it's everything, really. Yeah. So it's very geared towards this. So the great thing has been that over the last, 4 years in particular, we've been able to really work on, getting great chefs, really focus on local ingredients, and then bringing, premium drinks and so on as well. So it is, of course, possible to get French champagne or Australian red wine. But one of the things that we say when you're in Fiji, you have to get, the local cocktails, which are great. You're a rum-based cocktail, vodka-based cocktail.
Yeah.
There's great beer, of course. So there's Fiji Gold, Fiji Bitter, which is really, really good. And the one thing I would say is you must have seafood because the seafood is just unbelievable, like really, really good. So fish, crab, prawns, all of these, lobster as well.
And everything's super fresh, right?
Very fresh, very fresh. And so a lot of the resorts now will have their own farm. Oh. So things like, as you can imagine, tropical country, in the morning, you're going to have banana, pawpaw, mango, watermelon, all of these things fresh, just picked probably that morning. So yeah, the food and the drink is definitely something that you really want to look for when you're in Fiji for sure.
Awesome. Now, if someone is into adventure, right? And it seems like over the conversation, you also seem to be someone who likes adventure. What are some of the activities that really stand out as different experiences? We've spoken of skydiving, we've spoken of snorkeling and scuba diving, but something out of this world.
Yeah, so look, I think that's the thing. There's lots of experiences where there are, I guess you would call them tourist attractions or experiences. Yeah. So, for example, you can go on a river safari, or there's a experience called Trax, which is an old sugarcane track, and you ride an e-bike along the train track. But the best thing I think when you're in Fiji is the bespoke, catered for experience. So I'll give you two examples of this. One, I was staying at a resort and they said, do you want to go to the Sand Cay? And I was like, okay, Sand Cay, sounds good. We got in the boat, they packed, some lounges, some champagne, some food, etc. We go there in the boat, the tide has gone down, so it reveals this sand that is maybe, not that big. You can walk around it in 5 minutes. Yeah. So they drop you off there and then they leave. So it's an amazing experience to be alone, with your partner in this spot in the ocean, beautiful water around you with, food and drink, and just relax and take it in. It's incredible. And the other experience, I would say, we have a number of helicopter companies.
Okay.
And I went on this helicopter experience where they flew through a canyon. So we were, below the land level, going through a canyon.
That's pretty cool.
And then we popped out and went and flew over the reefs. And seeing the reefs from the sky is just incredible. There's, little islands that are shaped like hearts, and you see it all. You see the blues and the colors. And then the pilot says, do you want to go and land on one?
Wow.
And so we went and landed got a photo, jumped in the water. I mean, that's the thing I think in Fiji, because it's a place that is designed for tourism.
Yeah.
Almost whatever you can dream. So if you're an Indian and you've got a proposal or something like this, a big celebration, some sort of birthday or milestone moment, you have to come and do it in Fiji. I mean, it's you will get that really special shot for sure.
I guess that sandbank picnic idea seems super cool. But the helicopter thing also is something that I would recommend everyone, because you often go to a place, you see it
Yeah.
on the land level, right? But
Yeah,
like if you
entirely
go up
different.
and if you see,
Yeah.
and what Fiji has 300
Yeah.
odd islands, out of which 100 are inhabited, and everything else is as
That's right.
raw and as naked as it has been, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So when you're flying over in the helicopter, the horizon is always full of different things to look at. It's not like you're just flying over an ocean with nothing in it.
Yeah.
So one thing we do say, one hot tip that I give to everybody, if you are staying on an island, a lot of the islands will have heli transfer or seaplane transfer. And so you think, it's just a transfer. It's a scenic flight, right? So you're doing a scenic flight and you're doing the transfer. So that's a big hot tip for me, is definitely do that.
And if I'm flying to Fiji on Fiji Airways from Australia or New Zealand or from Singapore or Hong Kong, would you say take the window seat? Because I'm sure you'll see a lot of the islands, right?
Yeah. And you get that experience straight away. I mean, even for me, as much as I've traveled, every time when I go back, just the color, how green it is, how blue it is, it's so incredibly different to the rest of the world. And we don't have high rise, right? So all the accommodation at most would be 2 stories, 3 stories. Most of them,
that's it.
Most of them are flat. We just don't have high rise. So it's not like you're seeing big apartment buildings everywhere. It's just a very natural location and undeveloped. So I think in that sense, for a lot of Indians, it's like, hey, this is a place that you feel like, you're almost discovering.
Yeah. And, all of us like shopping as well.
Yeah.
So what can one do when it comes to shopping in Fiji?
So the thing is, when you come to Fiji, it's not about getting your Tommy Hilfiger t-shirt. That's not what you're coming to Fiji for. But what is really special is we have some wonderful products, right? There's a company called Pure Fiji. They make incredible sort of, cosmetic products. We always say to people, like, take that home with you, because then it's like, you open it back home and you smell the coconut and the banana and so on coming through. Yeah. So it smells tropical. So, this is great. There is amazing, Fijian fashion, which is very colourful and really interesting. And then, of course, there's things like there's a pearl industry in Fiji. There's, necklaces and things that are made. So the one thing I would definitely advocate is, get something that you've seen made, because some of the craftspeople are incredible.
Yeah, that's a great tip, I would say. Well, we've spoken a lot about a country that Indian travelers have not discovered yet, a country that attracts 1 million travelers every year, and all of the reasons that you mentioned are reasons that, we take back from this episode. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Do you think we've missed out on anything?
Well, I just think the biggest thing to really emphasize is, I think as a tourist, you're totally right. You can travel to places that are beautiful, that have palm fronded beaches, beautiful water, amazing rivers. But the one thing, it's lovely as a tourist to be welcomed, to feel seen, to feel really welcome, like you are some sort of king and queen.
Yeah.
So 2 things happen in Fiji. They're always going to remember your name. I guarantee it. So they will greet you by name to start with, and all the way through they will remember your name, and they'll sing to you. So they're going to sing welcome to you, and they're going to sing a song at the end, which is a farewell song. And it's one of the only places, I've been to 50 plus countries. Arguably, it's the only place in the world that I've seen people cry when they leave, because, the staff will come together and sing the farewell song as they leave. And it, to some people who haven't been, it sounds corny, but because you have connected with these people, I've seen hugs, embraces, they become lifelong friends, And for Australians and New Zealanders who come to Fiji, they come back a lot.
Yeah.
They come back again and again and again because of the people. So it is truly a really special destination. And the one thing, our brand is about happiness.
Yeah.
So when you come to Fiji, you'll be happy.
Awesome. I guess let's end on that note, because we are also super happy that you came to India. We did this, and I hope that this visit is one of many. We will see you on this
Not the last
podcast
time.
again as well. And maybe the next time we are recording, we are not recording here, but we are recording on a beach or on a sandbank in Fiji. That would be pretty cool.
You know what? We're going to make that happen.
Yeah,
That's a
let's
good
do
idea.
that. Yeah. But thank you so much. It has been a pleasure having you. I have got to know a lot, and I'm sure our listeners have also got to know a lot. Thank you.
Vinaka, appreciate it. Thank you
so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. We will see you next week. Until then, keep celebrating life. Bye.